I am also helpless and sensitive, born to be a YouTube audience member. Hello, welcome to the Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. In this video, we're going to be looking at the Scourge of Ghyran rules update for the Ogor Mawtribes. So I hope you're hungry for some rules, because there's a lot of meat on these bones that we need to go through. Please do like and subscribe. So if we go and look at the rules update, we can see that Ogor Mawtribes have got two new battle formations. Two new battle formations that you're going to be able to use in your games, obviously in conjunction with the brand new release GHB. I'm so excited. Please do watch my video on that. It's going to be super fun. I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, we're going to be making all sorts of videos about that. It's going to be cool. So two new battle formations to use. The first one, the Moorpath Menaces, gives you the ability Fixated on Feeding, where once per turn army in an enemy charge phase, you can pick a friendly Ogre infantry unit that is not in combat to be the target, and you roll a dice, and on a 3+, the target can move a number of inches equal to the roll. It can move through the combat range of enemy units, and it can end that move in combat. If it does so, the target has charged. So this is a cheaper, less reliable version of countercharge, in that it only happens on a 3+, happens in the opponent's turn, and you only roll 1d6. So overall, this is going to leave you. I think for Ogre players, I'll rate this based on dinner. This is going to leave you wanting more. This isn't going to remotely fill you up. This is just a wafer thin slice of bread, and is not enough to feed you because it sucks. But the other ability, Greedy Eaters, gives you, or the other battle formation, and if you are new, by the way, to Age of Sigmar, when you're writing an Age of Sigmar army list, and if you want to play Ogres, what you would do is you pick a battle formation, you stick it on your army list. Pretty cool. So you pick a theme, really, for your army. The next one, Greedy Eaters, gives you the ability Post-Prandial Warfare. Once per turn army, at the end of any turn, which does mean the end of every turn, you can pick up to 3 D3 friendly Ogre infantry units that were in combat with an enemy unit when it was destroyed this turn to be the targets. You can return 1 slain model to each target unit. Now, initially, this sounds obviously really good, because obviously you've got a lot of health on each individual ogre body. They're big, much bigger than you would see for, like, regular human. So each one's got more health, like 4. So you're like, okay, returning one of those is actually really beneficial. However, the stipulation in that they need to have destroyed an enemy unit is a little bit more challenging for several different reasons. Number one, destroying an enemy unit normally means you didn't take any damage back or much damage back. So returning one model is going to be a pretty limited response. And one model is a limited response, really, because 4 health is okay, but not enough. You're not going to constantly be destroying enemy units. Also, your ogres, you have a pretty weak armor save, which means if you're hitting something, you're normally killing it. But if anything's hitting you, you're normally dying. So it doesn't really key in with how they would work. In fact, actually, I took a moment to kind of sketch this out for everybody, and I've written this as a battle formation that I would have given out to ogres. It's this. It's +1 save to gluttons and iron guts. That would have been a very simple change, and I think that would have made a much more effective battle formation that would have worked much better. But unfortunately, we're not going to get the +1 save, which is a bit of a shame. So which of these two do I prefer? I'd probably prefer running a bunch of monster trucks and sending them at people. That's okay. Ogres are in a really weird place. If you're an ogre fan and you're watching this, ogres are in a super weird place where even I'm not confident that they're going to exist in the game forever. I'm really hoping they do, because they are straight up there in like my top 3 or 4 armies in the game. So I'm super hopeful for them. Okay, so you do have, which is very fun, a new enhancement section for your ogres. And this is very interesting, because this easily could have been a update or mount traits like we've seen with many of the other Scourge of Ghyran updates to your monsters. But seeing as Ogor Mawtribes currently is very monster mash heavy, taking a lot of stone horns to run around, pretty much as it ever was, getting updates that will maybe also work on some foot characters is good, because it at least goes on Ogor Mawtribes heroes. Again, if you're new to Age of Sigmar and you're not quite sure about list building, on your army list, each enhancement, so your traits, your artifacts, your spell lore, your manifestation lore, you get to choose each one of those for free. This adds another section, another enhancement, big names, which no one else has access to. So you get to choose one of these to be on your army list. And it's got to go on an Ogor Mawtribes hero. So the first one, Gut Slugger, adds 1 to hit rolls to this unit's combat attacks if it did not charge in the same turn. So if you're in ongoing combat, if you're a very tanky, survivable character like a Frostsword and Stonehorn, engaging in ongoing combat, getting +1 to hit is okay. Also, with the new all-out attack, which when you get +1 to hit, you also get -1 save, means you're getting the benefit of +1 to hit and it means you're not in such a weak space. Another benefit, of course, is that you are going to be able, in addition, to add the +1 to hit from all out attack to the +1 to hit from this. So you could, you know, if the enemy is trying to make you -1 to hit, that gives you a nice bonus. The next passive, Mage Swallower, you subtract 1 from the ward rolls for enemy units while they're within 6 inches of this unit. This will easily be the most popular one. -1 to enemy saves, enemy ward saves is obviously super, super good. And again, Frostlord and Stonehorn is good. But what's nice about this is it affects enemy units, and it doesn't matter how many of your units you're engaging that enemy unit with. What I mean by that is, when you get +1 to hit on a unit, it's just +1 to hit on that unit. Every unit that hits that enemy unit is going to be -1 to its ward save. So this is just substantially efficient. This is, yeah, for your entire army, and very, very cool. The next one, Mega Gobbler, is just hilarious. Like, before we talk about what it does or anything else, or even Mage Swallower, like, the flavor for text for the Mage Swallower is excellent. Ever since they ate an entire party of wizardly scholars, the mere presence of this ogre is enough to disrupt magical defenses. This is so funny. You'd be able to put like a bunch of like little wizard shoes at the bottom of his base or something. Anyway, Mega Gobbler is a once per battle in the deployment phase ability. You pick one of the following keywords, and there's a bunch of keywords, and for the rest of the battle, each time any damage points are allocated to an enemy unit with that keyword by this unit's combat attacks, and that enemy unit is destroyed in the same turn, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's melee weapons. Now that, on paper, kind of sounds okay, but because that isn't going to affect the companion weapons, especially if you're taking like a large fighty character, I don't really see this adding enough combat attacks or doing anything effective enough that you're even going to bother doing it. However, the Mage Swallow one is obviously fantastic. Let's use that. We've got 2 new alternative war scrolls for Ogor Mawtribes. So these are in addition to the war scrolls that you get in your index or in an upcoming battle tome. So you can use either or in your army lists. And the first one is a bit of a glow up for the Iron Blaster. The Iron Blaster is 9 health, 4 up save, moves 9 inches, control value 2. It's a single model, but it's as the kind of name suggests, it's a cannon. It's a cannon on a rhino that shoots stuff, which is very fun. Now, it's 18-inch range. With move 9, that's a 27-inch effective range. It's got 2 attacks that hits on 4s, which is the sad part. Wounds on a 2 is Ren 2, which is great, and damage 5, which is even better. The old version was damage D3 plus 3. What I like about this, especially with the new changes to all-out attack, where +1 to hit means that you're going to be -1 to your save, you're going to be able to all-out attack the shooting attacks without you necessarily getting hit in combat with your -1 save. So it's pretty effective. So that's going to be 2 attacks, 3s and 2s, Ren 2, damage 5. That's really nice at a really punchy range. But in addition, you've got the once per turn army in your shooting phase ability, Shrapnel Blast. For the rest of the phase, you add 1 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's range weapons. This unit's range weapons have crit 2 hits. So now you can have 3 attacks with crit 2 hits. That's very nice. I also really, really love how they've written this, and this is one of the really good examples of why this once per turn army in your shooting phase ability, or a once per turn army ability, means that they can build a much better unit. This is a cheaper version of the Iron Blaster than the one previously, 200 points. This is only 170 points, but also it just does more shooting. It's more effective at range and it does more output. The problem, and if Age of Sigmar 3 fans will remember, there was at one point an Iron Blaster problem where the Iron Blasters were just far too good and just did too much damage at range, and all of a sudden they had to go up too many points and then no one ever played them. This is a nice example where the first Iron Blaster is really effective, and well, effective, or just call it that. And then the second one won't be as effective, which is good. So taking multiples of them isn't going to really stack up that bonus, where 170 points is probably fair for the 2 attacks damage 5, but the extra attack is even better. So I really like this change. I think 170 points is nice. It means you just throw one of them into your army and it starts doing some shooting, which is very good. So I love that. I think it's very cool. The next alternative war scroll is the Noblar Scrap Launcher, and they've turned this into a debuffing piece, which I think is sensible. It's got 9 health with a 4-up save. It costs 150 points, moves 9 inches, and its shooting attack is 18-inch range. It's 12 attacks with crit 2 hits. Hits on 4s, which is sad. See what I said about the Iron Blaster. Wounds on a 2. It's only Ren 1, but is damage 1. Now, it's got an ability Scrap Away, where once per turn in any shooting phase, you pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this phase by the shooting attack, you roll a dice, and then if you equal to or exceed the save characteristic of the enemy unit, then they're going to halve their move until the start of your next turn, which is a good duration. However, if you roll a 5 up, you're also going to make it so they only charge on 1d6 versus on 2d6, or on 2d6, not 3d6, depending. You take 1d6 away, basically. Now, this is a nice control piece to have in an army. However, I probably would just add another an Iron Blaster in and just do more damage at range. It's fun being able to half a movement and make it so they can't change much, but if after I've moved my model around, done my shooting, hopefully done a little bit of damage, I then am only going to reduce down their effectiveness a bit, well, quite a lot, but I don't think it's enough. So I'm not that bothered about the scrap launcher, but I am really happy with the Iron Blaster. And that's it for the Ogor Mawtribes update. Pretty interesting. I would say both of the battle formations look a bit lackluster. Look a bit lackluster, and the big names are pretty fun as well. Specifically the Mage Swallow one might genuinely change how ogres play in the game, making it so that you reduce down ward saves means you'll do so much more damage. But I think if we could really recognize that one of the key elements of what is making infantry ogres not as good is their survivability compared to other units in the game, that would be a good thing to recognize and to do something about, which is a shame that they haven't done it. Anyway, new GHB soon. Loads of new updates, videos, rules, loads of fun stuff to come. Let me know what you think about the Ogre update. I am interested to know. Thanks for watching my video. I'll see you soon. Bye.